Is it my intraday or your intraday? I
You
think
can
it's
do it.
mine.
Yeah.
All right, hello people. Sorry for the delay. We were trying to figure out some technology here. Corey's a boomer, so I had to walk him through some stuff.
I'm not the one with the webcam that's currently going at like 3 frame or
Is it
just a
yellow?
resolution of 3.
Really? My webcam's a messed up resolution?
I don't know what you're streaming at right now.
Hold on. Am I not?
Well, it's
Oh
the
wow.
whole scene. It's just your.
Why is the text huge as well? Oh my god.
What are you doing? Yeah, I'm the boomer. Nice setup there,
Oh
champ.
my god. Why is that chat so big? Oh no. What the fuck? Okay, 1 second, guys.
Edit the
We're gonna try
browser
to fix this.
source.
Oh no. Oh my
Yeah, so
goodness.
sorry
Oh
we're
my
late, everyone.
goodness.
This is why.
Yeah, not good. Oh my god.
The layout's working fine on my end, so all 12 of my viewers are wondering what's going on over
Is
there.
it still really low quality?
No, it's
On
okay.
mine?
It's okay right now.
Okay. Okay. That text looks better too, right? I don't like the color, but we can fix
Yeah,
that later.
that's better.
All right.
Oh, you're back to Minecraft quality.
let me just check it out. See what's going on. Is it because I'm streaming my virtual camera as well? Do you?
I just
I
don't know
don't
what
think so.
your video quality is set to for your webcam for your streaming. Because mine looks okay on your
1080p.
end. Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, no, it looks like shit. I'm looking right now. It looks like shit. The fuck? Does it sound bad? Hold on.
No, the sound quality's fine. It might be. Is this on my end?
We're gonna start here in just a second, guys.
We're trying brand new technology.
There's no way we could have prepared for this beforehand. Do you guys like the new layout though?
I
Yours
don't
look
know.
okay? All right, whatever. It's a podcast. You guys should be lucky you're getting anything. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, the most technically adept and highest quality Star Wars podcast in existence. Absolutely, there are no issues with the stream right now. Corey's frame on my webcam, or Corey's webcam, is not slightly off by a couple of millimeters. It's not going to bug me. But if you're listening audio only, you're probably super confused. Welcome to what are we talking about today? The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
Right, Corey?
Yeah.
We're the special clones today because we're just really struggling. But how are you doing, Corey? How's your life treating you?
My life is actually fine. That's a Survivor reference, which maybe 3 people will get. But yeah, I'm good. I got to watch some Bad Batch last week. I get to watch some more Bad Batch later this week. What more could we want in life? So how are you? How's your batch doing?
My batch is good. I wish YouTube were a little hotter right now.
Yeah, that would be nice. If people could stop unsubscribing from my channel, really appreciate that.
Listen, I did 6 videos on Twi'lek mating. It's not weird. Like, I don't get why you guys are unsubscribing.
I only did 1, and that's the only reason anyone is subscribing.
Speaking of, I think that might actually be a topic of conversation for today.
Yeah, because the reappearance of, spoiler alert, everyone, if you haven't seen Bad Batch episode 1 and 2, we're gonna be talking about that. So
yeah,
what are you doing? If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? What are you doing here? That's all we it's your fault at this point.
But yeah, so the Bad Batch episode 2 sees the return of Cut, the clone from the Clone Wars, the clone who runs away from the Clone Wars to find himself a cutie pie Twi'lek GF. And at least originally the clones looked kind of human-y in this is like the least important thing of the entire show. But in the Clone Wars, they look sort of like humans, and Pablo tweeted that they're humans. But in this show, they look very just Twilight-y.
The kids, right? Not the clones.
Yeah, the kids.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, the kids.
So
yeah.
there's a common misconception here that we need to clear up, where people think that they're Cut's kids biologically. They're not. They do have a human father, though. But they're not.
They did. I don't know, but they might not anymore. Because that was just Pablo lore. That's not super.
Wasn't it established officially, though?
I don't think so. No, I think it's just Pablo.
Okay.
Because they don't look human anymore.
They don't look like how Jason does, obviously, Hera and Kanan's kid, but because he skews more human, and these two skew more Twi'lek. So maybe they will say that they're actually not half human, half Twi'lek. But I'm not sure if we're actually going to get official confirmation on that beyond what Pablo lore was.
All right. So, anything else do you want to talk about anything before?
No, I think we actually covered both of the episodes pretty well there. I don't know if there's really anything.
No, before we get into the episodes, Corey.
Well, you had something exciting happen this weekend. If you want to,
yeah, we had the big Star Wars Squadrons tournament I've been organizing for a long time. Twin Suns tournament. It was quite a success. I was very happy with it. Shout out to Splinter Squadron and our friend Scalp Waka, who took home the whole team, not just Scalp, took home the big 10K prize. It was a lot of fun. Had a few technical issues the first day, but the team got over it really well. And then in the second day, it was pretty much perfect, and it was a really, really good show.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah. We had a long day of, or 2 long days of some co-streaming there. The less professional broadcast that we were doing on X2. Well, they did the actual professional casting over on EckhartsLadder. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Even if you're not super into Squadrons, go back and at least watch the second semifinals and the finals, because they are really good matches, really entertaining, even if you're not super aware of what the mechanics of the game are.
Yeah, so basically what happened is this one team, Cavern Angels, who I think the casters were downplaying how good they were, but they certainly weren't in many people's favorites to get to the finals. And they went through Randalorians, who were, I think, one of, if not the favorites. They beat them in the quarters, so Randos didn't even get in the money. They beat Randos, then they beat Cheese, which was another really good team. And then they end up taking Splinter to 5 games. It was a 5-game series for the semis and the finals, and they took them to 5. So they had quite an underdog story. And one of their players, Knight, was especially really...
I still think he was probably the MVP of the tournament. If you have to pick one person whose team's placement relied most on just their individual input, Knight was out of his mind the whole time.
Yeah, he basically 100-0 that Star Destroyer by himself.
Yeah. He almost did it multiple times too. But yeah, so definitely go watch those last couple games if you have any interest in Star Wars dogfighting, because it was great.
And most of the tech issues are also cut out of the first day now as well, so you can watch that pretty much without any sort of any of that dragging you down, because it was really just what happened was in day 1 we were having some stuttering issues. At first we thought it was because we were restreaming to Twitch, so we briefly ended the Twitch stream, restarted the stream. We were still having issues. Turns out that the team that was producing the tournament, they were in a backup studio, because they were also, for one, they did it for pretty cheap, so at least for their rates it was very reasonable, but they were doing it. They also had a Red Bull event that day, so they were doing it kind of in their B studio, and a cable just broke or something. So apparently the audio cable being broke ended up having some weird effects on the stuttering. So they changed things around, and it ended up working. I guess because the audio cable broke, the whole stream ended up going through the wrong piece of hardware, and it just wasn't able to handle it. Anyway, eventually we fixed it. I was really worried, but they came through and fixed it under pressure. I would not have been able to do it, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a great event.
Yeah, really fun.
Anything else we should talk about before jumping into the Bad Batch?
Mass Effect comes out in a few days.
That is true.
I think
I've
it's
never finished a
Thursday.
playthrough of Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3. I've got like probably a quarter of the way through 1, and then just with a lot of the games like that, I'll binge it for a while, then I'll stop for like a week, forget where I am, and just never go back to it. So I'm really looking
Mhm.
forward to like, forcing myself to do that. But
Yeah, Mass Effect's really phenomenal. Yeah, it's a really good series. You'll enjoy it. I think it. So the first game is the roughest one, and that's the one that they spent most of the time on. Like, because the other games are basically just like some higher quality textures, some slight lighting changes, but the first one they actually went in and replaced some things, I guess. So
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, the driving stuff I really hated the first time I played, and it seems like that's very different now. So I'm
I don't know. I don't know how much they changed for that, to be honest.
well, they have it so that you have the option to go back to the original, so it's got to be pretty significantly different if they're gonna
Mhm.
bother doing that.
Yeah, sounds like it. But yeah, it should be fun. I'm probably gonna play that too. Be interesting to see how our stories differ. Anything else you want to mention before we get into
No,
Bad Batch?
this is actually going to be the first of 2 episodes of the podcast this week. We were going to
Hmm.
do this last Thursday, talking about just episode 1, and then do another episode today, talking about episode 2. But because of the tournament, we decided to kind of group episode 1 and 2 together here. We will be
Yeah,
back on Thursday talking about Young Jedi Knights, Shards of Alderaan. So make sure you read that book before Thursday so you can get
very
in
short,
all
even
the
for
yeah,
yeah,
all the in-depth discussion of the 100-page kids book.
yeah, short. It's short even for one of the Young Jedi Knights books. Like I thought it was today, so I just read of it, and I was like half an hour in. I was like, oh,
This is
and then
it.
you're like, oh, it's yeah. You're like, it's not today, and it's like, oh, well, I'm almost done, but it's good.
The
So we'll
farthest
talk about
ahead
that.
X ever been on a Tapcaf book.
It's true. I was thinking the other day about like the hierarchy of reliability among our little friend group. It's definitely you're definitely the top because like
Yes.
I think I'm fairly reliable, but I'm not sometimes. Like I know it. Like I sometimes leave things at the last minute. I'm usually there. Sometimes I'm not there as early as I should be. And then there's obviously Charlie, at the very bottom,
It's 1
with
and
a
2 is a
golf.
lot closer than 3 there.
Yeah. Speaking of Charlie, as we're progressing into our podcasting career, I'm putting together a soundboard. Did you hear it while you were on my stream earlier today?
I thought I heard me say something. Like, what? Does that sound like me? Or
I've
did I
got
say something?
yeah, hold on. I've got something really good
Did
here.
I say that's crazy?
You were wishing well.
Oh
Don't
my
ask me,
god.
I'll never tell. I looked at you as it fell, and
It's
now
kind of low, isn't it?
I
I
don't
trade my soul for a
know.
wish, pennies and dimes for a
Anyway,
kiss.
I can stop it at will because it is quite long. Then I also have just some random sounds like
That's crazy. Yeah, okay,
it's
that's
like
what I heard. It's like, wait,
yeah.
am I on the stream? So are we getting the X2 podcast going? Just pure soundboard?
Probably. I mean, at this point, I can pretty much replace Charlie. I've got
Just can we get like a deep
what
learning
else do
thing
I
to
need?
mimic his voice and then just record shit from Reddit posts? Because that's all he's gonna.
Yeah, I don't even think it needs to be deep learning. It can just be like Charlie's got 10 words. He just kind of puts in different order. So, but yeah, all right. So let's get into the episode before people start
Yeah.
egging my house. Or do you want to give general impressions first?
So do you want to talk about like the season as a whole there, or do you want to like go through each episode? Maybe just talk about more about episode 2
Okay, well, yeah,
because
let's go through. Let's briefly talk about episode 1, and then we'll talk about episode 2. Um, First of all, I was glad to see. Is it Tom Kane who does the narration at the beginning? Like the
it's the same guy as the Clone Wars. I don't think I ever knew his
yeah.
name, but
Well, I think his name is Tom Kane. Either way, he was Tom Kane. Sorry. Either way, he was really sick. I think he had a stroke or something. So
hmm.
we haven't gotten much about his health lately. So hopefully he's doing better now.
Was that
But
recently or?
yeah, that was 2020, I think. Tom Kane.
Well, hopefully
Stroke.
the fact that he's working on
Yeah,
this
2020.
means like I'm not sure when the production for that would have started, but hopefully
Yeah.
he's doing better then.
Hopefully. But yeah, it was kind of cool because like we watched that live together, and it was kind of cool how it was just like not only another episode of the Clone Wars, but we did get that really cool Revenge of the Sith kind of redo in Bad Batch style. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going into the series not expecting to enjoy it a huge amount. Like I thought it'd be fun, but it wasn't my favorite one of all the stuff that was announced. So I've been pleasantly surprised so far. Uh, still not the genre that I'd probably enjoy the most, but it's been enjoyable. A bit more depth to the characters than I thought there might be, at least for Hunter. And we're starting to get a bit with Omega. Echo was already kind of developed, but I think Tech and Wrecker will need a bit more work. So
I mean, I think even Wrecker was tuned down a bit last episode.
yeah,
Where like, because there's like one moment where like he's like, or Hunter's like, go save her, like go save Omega to Wrecker, and he just goes off and does it without like making a quip about fighting or smashing or whatever,
yeah, that's
which was a good sign.
yeah. He is way too over the top in the original couple episodes from season 7. So I
Mhm.
hope it's not going to be like fully that level all the time.
No, I think that's probably on purpose. Like, I'm gonna give, like, I think that's one thing that Clone Wars does really well, or just Star Wars animation does really well. Like taking these annoying, like one-dimensional characters like Ahsoka, where she's just like whiny brat who won't listen to authority, or like Ezra, who's whiny brat who won't listen to authority, or hopefully Wrecker, who's big whiny brat who won't listen to authority and kind of makes them into something more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that like something's gonna happen, and they'll kind of be broken out of their kind of like macho, whatever.
Yeah, and I do think it'll take a bit more work to differentiate what Tech and Echo actually do. Like character wise, I think they're different enough, but like their skill sets are the exact same, except Tech gets all the exposition. So I don't know if that's what his thing is, because he gets
Or are you
advertised as
thinking?
the specialist, but they're all specialists. What's he a specialist at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. That's why, like, I mean, they could have kept Crosshair, but Crosshair is the best villain out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because he's basically just
Well,
like a
yeah, you're
dude
not
with
gonna
a
have
typewriter.
Tech or Echo on the other side chasing.
Oh, he hacked my Microsoft Excel. Like, he fished my email account. Like,
Well, one
I
of
don't
them
know
could be
about
like tracking them down. Maybe they'd be able to get something out of that. But
I'm kind of expecting us to get some sort of um, new Imperial commando type or something. Because like
yeah.
Star Wars Rebels had the Inquisitors, so like I'm expecting there to be some sort of special unit that hunts down clones.
Well, I don't know how much we want to get into stuff that hasn't happened on the show but was in the trailer yet, or if we're gonna keep that off limits for anyone who may have
No,
been
if it's in the
avoiding
trailers,
that.
I think it's free speculation.
All right. You guys have been warned. Because it seems like isn't Naboo that they go to and spend a lot of time on, where like
It
Fennec
seems to be
is.
yeah, I'm not sure if that's Naboo, but
It looks kind of Naboo-y, but
mhm.
but there's like the droids there that we see and them fighting in ATTE. So I think we might get a bit more local flavor before we get too much Imperial stuff.
Mhm.
And then the Imperial stuff will probably come more when they're bringing Crosshair back around.
Yeah.
But
You think so? That's your kind of Crosshair speculation. You think he's gonna be brought back around?
well, I mean, bringing him back around isn't like bringing him back into the plot rather than
Oh, okay.
necessarily. I do think the show is gonna end up with them reconciling in some way with Crosshair,
Hmm.
but yeah,
I'm
I
not really
feel like
sure
setting
what
it
I
up as
think
like, oh,
Crosshair is.
the chip is doing this to him, and then they're just gonna shoot him or something. I don't think they'll do that.
Did you hear or have you heard about the theory or the supposed leak regarding this episode? Like that came out before?
Episode 3 or
No, episode 2.
no? I haven't.
So I will give a slight spoiler alert because it is possible that this happened. I mean, it's almost certainly not going to happen, but there was a leak about Cut's but what would happen with Cut, because before the show even came out, somebody basically had a leak that Cut was going to appear in it, and that it was going to be basically what they said was that it was a very, 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 very dark leak. Like, it was like Commander Cody shows up and murders one of the children, and like this was before like this was for specifically for episode 2. So like, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw episode 2 was called Cut and Run, I was like, this show is like, I'm not gonna like if they do that, because that's maybe a little too dark.
Yeah. That's
It was like Commander
that's
Cody
Revenge of the
shows up
Sith
and
when we're looking for Phantom Menace here.
yeah, I think that'd be even, yeah, it'd be almost even darker in a way than Revenge of the Sith, because it's so like, because like Revenge of the Sith is like Anakin's big thing, and it's like it's his big moment of falling to the dark side. This would just be a kid being murdered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with no purpose of driving the plot forward. Like, we know
Mhm.
Cody's a dick now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I do think Cody will be in the show at some point. I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely
And I
getting
think-
Rex, right? So
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Well, we've seen Rex already in one of the trailers.
yeah.
So here's what it said. It says this was the leak, and this takes place on Seleucami. Rex is staying with Cut and his family. Crosshair is in charge of the elite squad. And then eventually Cut is Cut refuses to give Cody Rex, and then Cody kills Cut's daughter, which would have been very dark. And
Yeah, don't like that.
yeah, I do think we'll see. I do think we'll have a good Cody Rex reunion, but not that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna kill off Cody in this series?
I don't know.
Because I don't think
Like-
he shows up in anything like super late into the Imperial period, right? So far in canon.
I mean, none of the clones really do,
yeah,
besides the
like
ones who are.
Wolf, Gregor,
Yeah.
Rex.
I think that the show could end in a dark way with the clones basically being decommissioned, and because I've been thinking about how like the clones are kind of like the ultimate tragedy of Star Wars, where like they're grown for war, they're put into war, many of them die, and then having them basically at the end of this series be not only like metaphorically thrown away, as in replaced by stormtroopers, but literally like exterminated, I
Mhm.
think would be a not a pleasant arc, but I think it would be one that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well, they're gonna keep accelerated aging, so
Yeah, but I mean, they're only like what, 30, 35?
yeah, they're mostly gonna die off before
I mean, Rex is still around in
or Mandalorian.
Mhm. Yeah. But I mean,
Because that's a whole
Uh,
big thing in Legacy of the Force, where they're
Mhm.
like Karen Travis is part of it, where there's all the clone troopers on Mandalore, or
Yeah.
the Null Arcs or whatever. They're looking for the fix
that
for
one
the aging.
Camino, yeah, that one cloner.
Yeah,
So is Boba Fett, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
He's got
Boba,
cancer or
Boba
something.
Fett is
Boba Fett just has cancer. That's like that's
Yeah.
the plot of part of Legacy of the Force.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I was just thinking about this last night, where like how weird it sometimes is, the tonal difference between the prequels and then original trilogy, where just how weird it would be to have the clone troopers, some of those characters, show up in like OT stuff, or even in like sequel trilogy stuff. Like hearing
Mhm.
just the idea of like hearing Rey say the name Mace Windu just seems.
Yeah, I think with that sometimes.
So then, like having
Um,
Commander Cody show up in a scene with Luke Skywalker.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an interesting, especially like, well, a lot of people have been saying that they think Cody might show up in the Obi-Wan series, which to me makes sense.
Well, apparently, Ewan McGregor's been doing a lot of choreography practicing for lightsaber
Mhm.
stuff in Kenobi, and what is he going to fight? Tusken Raiders? Is there
Yeah,
going to be a
Shroud Head.
flashback with Anakin? That because like I think it's been confirmed that Hayden Christensen's going to be there. So is it going to be?
I hope the show has a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah,
Like, I want the show to have like honestly like a flash, like half the episode being past, half of each episode being past and half being present. Honestly, feels kind of right to me because I don't want them to do very much. I don't want Kenobi to have grand adventures. He's in
yeah.
exile. Like,
Well, the thing with that is that like obviously you'd want a flashback, or you'd expect flashbacks like during the Clone Wars with
Mhm.
like Anakin and Obi-Wan, and maybe learn about that business on Canon and Moidia. But then you got these two guys who are in their 40s and 50s. Are we going to de-age them back to when they're in their
yeah, I don't
20s? Is this
I
going to
don't
be
think
like an
that's a
episode of
problem.
Dawson's Creek where it's a bunch of people who are clearly not the ages that they're claiming to be?
I don't think that's a problem, honestly. Like, I think they easily have the technology. Like, Hayden, have you seen Hayden Christensen? He doesn't
Yeah,
look
they both
significantly
of them
different.
look very young. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's just
Like, I think if you like put the makeup on Ewan to kind of emphasize his age, that alone
true.
almost has like a de-aging effect on himself. Like,
Yeah.
but he looks
So
good. Like,
they use the makeup and special effects to age him up, and then have him play himself in his 20s or 30s, just without the makeup.
yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, yeah, Hayden Christensen always looked old anyway, in my opinion. So
Mhm.
I think it'll work out.
What if they get Jake Lloyd?
Maybe for like a Toydarian or something.
No, to play Anakin in the flashbacks instead, because he'd be around the right age now. I'm sure he wants everything to do with Star Wars at this point.
Yeah, that's a Anakin had he never left Tatooine, maybe. Poor Jake Lloyd. He's at a rough go.
I feel so bad for all the prequel and a lot of the sequel trilogy actors sometimes. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, you shouldn't shit on people for making things. No matter
No.
how much you like or dislike it, leave them alone.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched any of the what is it, Jedi Temple Run that Ahmed Best hosts?
No, have you?
I haven't yet. I haven't like wanting to watch it. I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's nice to see him feeling good about things again.
I think Alex watched all of it.
Yeah, I think they did like a rewatch thing, and then we're like doing uh photoshops and stuff of him and Molly on the show.
I mean, it's like children, but
Yeah, I think they did acknowledge like beat up all those 10-year-olds to win.
oh yeah, I think you sent me a tweet they did or something.
Yeah,
But yeah.
but
Um,
how are you feeling about
sorry.
Omega? I feel like that's always going to be the kind of character that gets the most attention in these shows, is like either for complaints or
I love Omega. I think she's great.
yeah, me too.
Um,
I think she's really necessary for what the show is doing.
she's also just very like genuine and
Mhm.
like she's likable and her actress is really good.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really like Omega. She's just got like a really sweet kid vibe to her. Like she comes off genuinely as a kid. Like there's that one bit in the last episode where like she gets scared because partially because she gets attacked. Is it a Nexu that attacks her?
Yeah, that looked like a Nexu.
She gets attacked by a Nexu, but also Hunter yells at her, and she kind of just like the way they had her kind of just like deflate kind of reminded me of like my kids kind of, well, August specifically. He's only 2.5, but like, you know, it's a very kid like thing where they just like kind of shut down when they're upset, you know.
Yeah. Like she gives the show a much more clear way to emphasize like all these are people that are kind of out of their element and out of what they're
Hmm.
used to experiencing, uh,
Hmm.
and adds that like kind of intra-group conflict in a group that probably wouldn't have that many uh, super interesting or conflicting dynamics now that like Crosshair's immediately out.
Hmm.
So I think having her around is pretty necessary.
Yeah, it's cute seeing her. Like, I like how she is obviously attached to Hunter the most. Like, I didn't even really realize when I was watching the episode, but someone posted like screen grabs of her like mimicking everything he's doing.
Hmm.
Like he like puts his head on his or his like elbow on his knee and his hand in her head and she's doing the exact same thing. Excuse
Yeah.
me. So it's kind of cute.
And so far, she's need to be rescued an average of like 2 or 3 times per episode. So
Yeah, but I mean, she's been helping out too. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Um, they of course did the whole thing that Ray did too, where it's like person experiencing planet for the first time.
yeah.
And
Well,
I was
it's got
I
to
was
be
kind of
weird
over
living
that.
your whole life in Tapioca City and then learning about dirt, going to
Mhm.
Seleucama. It's a pretty big disconnect there.
Mhm.
Like for a lot of people from temperate planets, like you know about other biomes, you kind of see more of them. But if you're growing up on like stilts in the ocean and then go to this kind of weird desert planet,
Yeah, she'd never seen land before. I guess if you
yeah,
think about it. Yeah. Hmm. That's true. Um, I'm just trying to think anything. What else about episode one really struck me? The animation's incredible.
yeah,
Obviously, they've brought it to the next level. The characters are still not the best part. The characters are really good. They're obviously very heavily stylized, but where you really see it's like with the environments and the lighting, especially.
hmm
Um, pretty good.
yeah. Uh, like the first episode was a lot of just action, 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 which I think is fine to set up the show. And then the second we started getting more of the characterization, because like the first episode we did get the all the stuff with Crosshair,
Mhm.
but it was like a big focus on the test that Tarkin put them through. But we did see the thing with Tarkin talking to the Kaminoans, trying to claim that like, oh, actually it's the Republic that owed you that debt. We don't.
Sovereign citizen Tarkin.
Yeah, but now they're also, if they want to try to do that while canceling the deal, maybe they're able to get away with that. But they're
Mhm.
saying that while also trying to continue the production and claiming the other rights. So I feel like
Yeah.
that doesn't work out here.
When you got a big enough stick, you can make whatever you want work. That's like the first thing they teach you in law school.
Yeah, but at that point, it's still like the entire military is still very
Mhm.
heavily tied to the Kaminoans. So I don't know if you want to be pissing them off just yet.
Yeah, I do think we are going to get some Kaminoan rebellion storyline. People are saying it's going to be the exact same as Battlefront 2. I mean, I'm not convinced about that, but I do think we might see something along that line. Whereas, like, they do something, and that's another reason why clones go bye bye.
Yeah. So I guess something we should talking about like other lore stuff. Something we should probably talk a bit about is the initial scene on Kalar with Depa Billaba and Kanan, where there's the prior comics. I don't know if you've read them that kind of show a different Order 66 experience for Kanan. And so it's been a bit of a thing where people are
Yeah,
upset that the show is uh, different from what that was.
I'm not upset. And I think it's definitely overblown. Um, I think their mistake was acting like things are going to be way different this time, like with the new canon,
hmm
because effectively they're not. Like they still tell stories and they fit them in when they can, and that's kind of exactly how it was before.
Yeah.
So like I just think they probably shouldn't have portrayed as something else because maybe I feel like
Well,
they might have set people's expectations wrong, but
if you read a lot of what the actual story group members have said, they've always been very clear that like it's not going to mean that everything fits together perfectly, or that's going to be like the main focus. It's just that if you
Mhm.
compare it to especially the pre 2000s period, there is going to be an emphasis on making sure it is one largely coherent story, but they are still telling the stories for their own sake. And I think Pablo Hidalgo has said a lot about it, about and Matt Martin. Uh, like specifying that like no, this doesn't mean that every detail is always going to match up or that that's what the story group is necessarily there to do. The story group is largely a resource for people when they're telling those stories to make sure it can be like relatively consistent, but you're still going to have
Yeah,
discrepancies.
I think my bigger issue is rather than kind of this issue or the Mandalorian issue is like Episode 9, I think, was much more egregiously disregarding prior canon. Like it disregarded canon not only in that like it ignored certain aspects it didn't like as in Poe's backstory got changed in a way that like doesn't really make sense, but more so like I feel a lot of the time like they're just not taking prior canon into account. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's
Whereas
like
like
a JJ problem there more than
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Where like
because we see Ryan Terrio's story or not
Colin
Ryan
Trevorrow.
Terrio, Colin Trevorrow, who's
I think
Ryan
you're thinking
Terrio, the
of
guy
Chris Terrio combining
Chris
that with Ryan
Terrio and
Johnson,
Jesus Christ.
but
Yeah. Anyway, Colin Trevorrow's story, where like he heavily relied on expanded universe
yeah,
canon, which you can say it's cool or not, but it's just like they have a hard time convincing me that like the expanded universe matters really, and it would have been the same under the old. It was the exact same under Legends. To me, it's more of something that rather than trying to make a cohesive story, they just try not to fuck with it as much as possible. You know what I
yeah.
mean? But although I will say the Mandalorian, like, it tied in well to the expanded universe. So I don't know. I guess we'll
Yeah, I
see.
think it's largely going to depend on the person actually responsible for making whatever the thing is. Where I
Mhm.
don't think the story group is ever really trying to impose themselves on any person unless it's like some super new creator and they're like getting that person in to make the project rather than getting a project for a person to make, which I feel like is more what the whole JJ situation is. Where
Yeah.
a lot
No, I
of what
think.
JJ was doing was that he really only seems to care about the original trilogy and trying to recreate
Mhm.
some of that stuff.
Mhm.
And like probably Dark Empire. Well, I think he did say he read that before, so that's
Mhm.
why that gets in. But I
Mhm.
really don't think JJ gave a fuck about what a lot of other people were doing.
No, I think you're right about that. And I guess you kind of gotta ultimately like with Star Wars, you've got to decide your like you pick your poison. Like I'm
Mhm.
the kind of person who's totally against design by committee, and that's like I don't like Episode 8 very much, but like I'm happy that it exists because I'm happy that they can make a Star Wars movie that I dislike. You know, because if it was just designed by committee, um, like you can make like I'm not saying this in any way against Rogue One because I know it's your favorite. You can make a lot of
Yeah.
Rogue Ones, you know what I mean? But like, you know,
See, like
um,
I kind of see Rogue One and Episode 8, Mandalorian, Solo as like the start of projects, kind of showing that they are gonna be able to do a broad array of
mhm,
stuff, appealing to different people.
mhm,
Uh, and like the same thing with all the shows they announced, where a lot of them I'm probably not gonna like. That doesn't mean they're bad shows; it just means that I don't like those shows. And the
yeah,
Bad Batch was kind of the prime example of that for me, where this wouldn't be the show that I would pick to make. I don't hate that it exists. I like that we get this and all those other things,
mhm,
but like you're you're
mhm,
clearly able to like the Dave Filoni, John Favreau. They're clearly given a lot of freedom to kind of do the stories they want to do, and I don't want it to be just dominated by one person or one specific vision. So I agree with you there.
mhm,
There is something that Ryan Johnson said that I think gets misrepresented a fair bit. Uh, where when he talks about his movies, he says like he doesn't consider it a bad. I forget what the exact quote was, but it's something like he doesn't consider it a bad thing if you have half the people going and loving it and half the people going and hating it. And that gets kind of portrayed as him saying he wants to make a bad movie, but the idea there is more if you are making choices about what to do rather than trying to like generally appeal to everyone,
mhm.
you're probably trying to actually say something with it more than
Yeah,
just some
yeah,
like shoot 'em up thing and doing nothing that would offend, like nothing that people would find distasteful in any way.
yeah, and like that's the thing because Star Wars, and I do feel like Marvel goes down that route sometime, and that's one of the reasons why. Again, I'm not trying to hate on Marvel fans, but I do feel like Marvel sometimes does feel a bit more designed by committee than Star Wars. Because and that's why like as much as I dislike a lot of the things to do with the sequel trilogy, I'm not in favor of it being retconned. For one, I think that's just obviously not going to happen, but I'm not in favor of creators bowing to fan feedback at all times.
Yeah, I
Like
really hate that it gets portrayed as like if you try to make that, you're trying to do it to piss people off. It's that you're trying to make something with an actual vision, and you're not doing something just generically appeal to the broadest possible base. To try to portray that as doing something to piss people off is a huge misrepresentation of what he said.
Yeah, I agree. And like I think for me the best example is Star Wars Rebels, where like if you had asked me before I'd watched it, would I, if I were Lucasfilm exec, would I greenlight Star Wars Rebels? It would have been obviously no. Like I don't like Star Wars animation. I like it's a kid show. Like why would I be interested? And then of course when I actually watch it, it's like one of my favorite things in the era. So it's just like part of like the good thing about art is that it is someone's vision, and as a as somebody experiencing art, you're getting their vision. So it's like you lose that when it's just being designed to be like appealing to Star Wars fans generally.
Yeah, there's a huge
that's why a lot of people
problem.
love Episode 8.
Yeah, there's a huge problem in pretty much every fandom where people feel entitled to have everything appeal to them, and rather than accepting like some things are just not going to be for them, they're not going to like them, and that is not a bad thing. And usually it comes from people who like generally don't have any experience making anything, so they've never had to make those decisions, but they'll like have their own head thing of like, oh, if I did this, everyone would fucking love it because I always know what to do. But that's not how anything ever works.
Yeah. I also don't like picking 20-year-old quotes out. Regarding the Rian Johnson thing specifically, I think it's really lame to cherry pick a 20-year-old quote or however old it was. And it was like 15, 20 years ago about some indie movie he was making. Like, that doesn't mean he's got the same thing going into making Star Wars. Like, a lot of the time, if you are making an indie movie or whatever else, and again, this is coming from somebody who doesn't like what came out of it. It's like, come on. He made a movie like I think that he thought people would like, but yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he went in thinking like everyone would agree with his choices or that he needed to make choices that everyone would agree with. He made the choices that he thought made sense and that he felt like he could back up. People don't all have to agree with it. Mark Hamill obviously didn't agree with it at the start, at the very least, but he had reasons for his choices, even if people don't end up agreeing with them. Like there was the clip that came out recently of Matt Stover talking to Star Wars Theory on his podcast, talking about like the Luke representation and how Matt Stover made sense of that, which was actually saying kind of the same things that Rian Johnson has said about it before, but I guess probably means more to some people coming from a source that was like a Legends author rather than coming from Rian Johnson. But like, I think it's very easy to take those kinds of statements or take what is in the movies or in the shows and try to present it in a light that's like intentionally being aggravating to some group. But I don't think I think when people take that approach rather than trying to understand why the choices are made and just deciding whether it's for them or not, then it just gets into aggravating nonsense.
No, I agree. It's just I don't even know how we got on this topic, but it is a good discussion to have. Because it's I guess with the Bad Batch, I guess we got it because we were talking about Canon, right?
Yeah,
we were talking about. Yeah, so I'm also the kind of person who I prefer canon and continuity never to get in the way of a good story. A really good if a story's good enough, or if a video, especially like with a video game, or like I never want, like they talk about how like Battlefront 2, Lucasfilm didn't want you to enter TIE fighters as rebels because they didn't do that. It's like, but it's more fun if you get to enter it like that, you know what I mean? Rather than spotting it on the battlefield, or like just generally like the Halo community is all up in arms because there's been some aspects of the lore changed for the TV show.
Yeah,
and I just think it can be a mistake to. So it's like you've got this scene made, especially like if you talk about Halo, for example, you've got scenes made 20 years ago. Now it comes time to put together a TV show worth of tens of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Should you shackle yourself and perhaps make a worse TV show because you want to be a slave to continuity? I think this is a bit more complicated because from what I understand, I've never read the comic. People really like the Kanan comic, and it seemed to be pretty good. But
yeah,
yeah.
like if people dislike the Bad Batch scene because it breaks that, or if they have a problem with that and that takes them out of it, that's perfectly valid as well. It's just for me personally, especially coming from Legends, where like there's a lot of that. It doesn't
Oh
bother me
yeah.
too much. It's kind of like that's everything that comes out. If you want to read the X-Wing books, you kind of got to reconcile that with the what you see about the Clone Wars and prequel. It
No, I
doesn't
mean
bother me too much.
even things that came out like um Thrawn, for example. When you read the Thrawn trilogy, there's not a good guy Thrawn in there.
No.
Like there's really not. There's no protagonist Thrawn in there. He's a bad guy. He's not sadistic necessarily like Darth Vader, but he's a bad guy.
Mhm.
So like you gotta decide yourself. Like when you read, say, the Thrawn. Well, you read, Outbound Flight or Thrawn duology or whatever else. Like, is this version of Thrawn, like, do you like what he's doing enough to get over that inconsistency?
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and like
So
Timothy
it's like,
Zahn's portrayal of him has evolved over basically every book that's come out.
mhm.
And some of his attempts to humanize Thrawn more, turn him into more of a hero character, has involved uh, in the process trying to turn Palpatine into more of a like, oh, he had altruistic reasons for what he did, and there your mileage may vary on exactly how effective a lot of that is,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Thrawn wants to kill the rebels because they destroyed the Empire, and the like he, he's not super complex, like, from that perspective in the original Thrawn trilogy. So
yeah, he's just a villain who is really hard to beat. That's basically all he exists to be in the Thrawn trilogy.
yeah, I guess the question for me is, could they have maintained the integrity of the original Kanan comics and still, or the integrity of the intended Bad Batch scene, and while also sticking closer to the canon comics? Because like that's the kind of thing that I like to see when you can maintain continuity. Like, I think you probably should. Like, if it's not going to interfere with, major creative decisions, like, I think you should try to maintain continuity. And I think like Mandalorian did a fairly good job at that.
Hmm.
Like striking that balance, like certain things they didn't get quite right, like or not that they didn't get it right, they changed slightly, like with what's his name in his armor. They changed a little bit from Aftermath. But like other times where it's like the general canon connections and like the Ahsoka and the Thrawn stuff, they do pretty well. So yeah,
Yeah,
that for me is always kind of the question.
yeah. I think like there's elements that you can retcon and reconcile between the two. Like I'm not super familiar with the comic, but I did go and try to at least get an overview of the relevant parts when this all started happening. And I think it partially just comes down to Dave Filoni wanted to use his characters, and that's so Kanan shows up. And he was probably less concerned about making it mesh entirely with how the comic went and its specifics. So
My problem is I just don't think it was necessary. Like,
yeah,
I didn't get a lot out of it being Kanan.
me
I
neither.
was
But I
like
feel
taken
like
out a
it's
bit.
that's what Dave Filoni's going to do. He's going to use his characters, and that's why we get
Yeah,
Ahsoka everywhere we do.
yeah. So like that's my bigger problem is like Kanan doesn't add a whole lot to the scene. If
Yeah,
anything, it's a little bit distracting.
no, that's fair.
Um,
I don't think it
yeah,
needed to be Kanan. I probably would have preferred that it wasn't, but
yeah. Another kid would have been fine. Like,
yeah,
I think the fact that it is a kid is important. Like, I think kids are always important in Star
yeah,
Wars, um, because it's about growing up and families and stuff.
yeah.
Like it's gonna be 20 years. You're gonna be seeing little kids being and with like one of the big themes of like the original trilogy is like adopted families and stuff. So it's like that's always going to be a theme in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like George Lucas has adopted children, and like so I think it was something that was important to him
Hmm.
probably. Um, and obviously that's like the main kind of sticking point of the new trilogy too.
I don't know if it's the main sticking point.
Well, not the main, but it's well, I mean, it's the last scene, right?
It's the main sticking point of the last 5 minutes of Rise of Skywalker. That's for sure. I can't
No,
even
I
say
think
that's
it's
for
kind
sure.
of about. I think it's kind of about choosing your family because she's dealing with the whole blood Jedi Prince
So
thing
you're
the whole
talking
time.
about the point of the movie rather than sticking point as in point of contention in the community. Okay.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm on the
Sorry.
same page with you now. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no,
I
I
don't think
definitely
that's
agree
the
there.
point. Yeah, I don't think that's the point of. But like, and that's kind of people have been rightly pointing out, given that it's Mother's Day. Like, it might have been interesting to see like a motherly relationship in a show like this, especially
We
after the
don't get we
Mandalorian.
don't get very good like motherly relationships in Star Wars in general.
No.
Like throughout both canon and legends, like the biggest actual maternal relationship we get, I think, is Leia and the twins, but she's not a good mom in Legends. And like
Hmm.
that gets explicitly covered in NJO. Because like you get a bit in the OT talking about how Leia remembers their mother, but shouldn't. Um,
Hmm.
there's not much there. We get Anakin at first, but like the whole point is that Anakin gets removed from his mom so quickly. So like we never really
Yeah.
see that developing very much over the course of anything in Star Wars.
It clearly would have been something that would have been a feature of Episode 9 had Carrie Fisher
Yeah.
not died.
Yeah, it did look
But
like they might have been going somewhere useful with that.
mhm.
With
You
with
can get
Carrie
like
and then
whole into the thematic, like, separation of a
yeah,
child
the
from the
whole
mother
original
and
sin
like,
thing.
mhm. Which would have been interesting, but I mean, you can only do so much with digital Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Um,
Just cut in the clips from Rogue One.
just like have her that scene where she's hugging Ray, just like Photoshop Ben into it. And it's like, isn't he like 6'3"? Isn't Carrie Fisher like 5'4"? um, but yeah, I would have in hindsight, I hope we see something like that because a father's child relationship is different than a mother child relationship. I also do think that like a father daughter relationship or like the relationship in this show is different. Like it's not the same as Grogu and Mandalorian. Even if it is like the idea of a father and a child, it's still like they're different children. Um, they're different like in they've got different kind of connective themes. Like in the Mandalorian, it's like both have kind of been abandoned by whatever. In this show, it's like they're both kind of the defective clone idea. Um, of course, the age of the kind of parent guardian relationship is different, but I mean, we'll always kind of see like the idea that the it seems like the parent is giving all these things to the children, but of course in the end it's the parents getting the most out of it. So I think we will see some themes, but there's enough different in this that it's still interesting, even if it is so close to the Mandalorian.
Yeah. And now, like, is Hunter going to become the best father in Star Wars? Is that what we're heading towards here?
He's the best so far.
It's a low
Well,
bar, and he's
well,
tripping over it.
Bail Organa is
Is he a great like? Do we see too much of him? We know he explodes. That's about it.
we know from him about what Leia says,
Yeah,
and
and like he's putting like, was it Leia's choice to get into the Imperial Senate? Was that like
yeah, I think it's her choice.
was that how much did Bale kind of push her into that? Did he put
I don't
her
think
on
he
to
pushed
do the
her. I don't
games?
think he pushed her at all.
We just
I'm not
don't
sure
know.
though.
We don't see a lot of it,
No,
and
we get it in Bloodline. You get a lot of that because it's about Leia finding like a message from him.
all right. Well, if he was such a good father, he wouldn't have exploded on Alderaan.
That's true. So your mom must have been really bad then.
Yeah, that's what I told her as she was dying. I was like, "You're just the fucking worst."
Oh, I gotta be careful making those jokes over here and not on X Dukes. People are gonna be like, "Oh my god, did he just throw a dead mom joke right at him with no warning?" I mean, yeah.
Okay, you want to get into well? You want to speculate a bit on where we're going next episode so that our titles aren't clickbait, or do we want to get into the email questions for the episode here?
Well, I mean, let's speculate a bit. First of all, quickly, do you think that Omega's force sensitive?
I don't feel like there's. I want to say yes, just because I feel like they're going to do that with someone all the time, and I don't know who else it could be on the show unless like Wrecker ends up being force sensitive, and he's like maybe a distant second for me, but I do think just because it's Star Wars, she will probably end up being force sensitive.
See, I think you could be right, but I hope she's not.
Me too.
And like that, they end up just protecting her because they care for her. You know what I mean? Rather than like she's Grogu, where like everyone wants to get a little bit of his bloody blood.
Look, I know Dave Filoni's watching right now. Just if this isn't where the season goes, please throw out the rest of the episodes, remake them before Friday, whatever. Make Wrecker force sensitive. Just please do it.
Yeah, I want to
That one's
see what I
free.
want to see from Wrecker is I want him on at least one occasion to roll up into a ball and knock over a bunch of enemies like a golem using rollout. Is that too much to ask?
Not Whitney's Mill Tank?
Whitney's Milk Tank, sure. Yeah, I like that as well. But yeah, that's what I want to see from the show. So yeah, force sensitive definitely. It definitely could be. I think she probably ends up just being really skilled. But I mean, either way, should be interesting. Where do you think they're going next?
I think we're probably going to get to whatever planet Fennec's on next. Or actually, there seems to be another planet that's like kind of deserty that they're going to at some point with the big monster. I feel like
With
that's
the,
going to be after Fennec because it looked
Could
like
that be? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
well, it looked like it was like they had fewer shots from there, so I feel like that'd be later on in the season, right? Rather than showing so
My
much.
theory
from the
is that
final
that
arc.
might be Zygeria
Hmm.
because we see Zygerian slavers.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just looking it up. I can't remember what Zygeria looks like, but I do remember it being, I think, a little bit like kind of sandy, like, I mean, obviously terrestrial, but looking it up, it does. Yeah, it's like mesas and.
I
Kind of
do
like
hope the
almost
show doesn't just end
Egypt,
up
I
being
guess.
like the greatest hits of the Clone Wars locations, which I'm a little bit
Mhm.
worried about right now. But
I
like, I
mean,
hope we get a few other ones.
it's fun because we don't know what's happening, and that's why I'm really really glad they had that long ass first episode.
Mhm.
Because if they had spent 3 or 4 episodes getting all this shit out of the way, like from the first episode, like if they had waited till episode 3 to defect, I think I might have got a little tired of that as a
Yeah.
grown man watching animated children's show.
Yeah, I the fact that all that stuff, like we got through the first episode, established that they are leaving the Empire and got Crosshair out of there. That
Because
if we
now
were
we
still
have no
4 weeks
clue.
from now, that would have been a slow burn. It was a really fun like first episode, but it would have been a slow burn as a month worth of TV.
Yeah. And now we have no idea where we're going, so that's exciting. Like I love that. When we got the Mandalorian sometimes we're like the plot line will end and it's like no clue where's next. And like the Clone Wars, there's never that point because you always know, where the characters are going to end up. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say in general about the episodes before we hop into our emails?
No, I really like them. I like the second one more.
Well, we haven't read any of them yet, but I feel like it's kind of weird to make a judgment already.
Can you shut the fuck up, Corey?
No.
I like the second episode more.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so we did get a bunch of emails. We are going to be dividing these between this episode and the episode on Thursday, so I highlighted the ones that are more directly about Bad Batch, and then next time we'll do any questions about Young Jedi Knights as well as any other more general questions. Because these are technically supposed to be shorter episodes, but we had 90 minutes worth of TV to talk about and the entire sequel trilogy to talk about, apparently, this time. So, our first email this time comes from... Oh, well, Brandon was asking about the Kanan thing. So, did already talk about that. And then Joel was actually asking about the same thing. Talking about like returning to a tier system of canon. I think we're both kind of on the same page. We're like, it's not stated as such, but in effect, it kind of is.
Basically, not even a tier. It's like everything expanded universe is canon until something big.
Yeah, it seems to be more like whatever the most recent thing is going to override it. Like some mix of recency and how on screen it is.
Effectively, I don't think it's any different.
Yeah.
It's the same.
It's the same thing, except now they don't have to worry about like what the difference is between the competing Dark Horse and Bantam books and old Marvel comics, where they don't need to like explicitly say, just ignore that unless it comes out somewhere.
What the heck's a Chunthar?
So Jan says, thank you for your great channels and your podcast. I'm an avid viewer / listener. What do you guys think of the inhibitor chip of clone troopers in terms of world building and drama or narrative? I do prefer the old contingency orders for several reasons. It's way more subtle. It has a bigger impact on world building. It's also how real governments would act. More subtle and actually stealthier and clever for the grand plan of the Sith, as the only real orders buried within 150 others. And it may actually deepen the drama narrative. Instead of turning clone troopers into evil automatons upon Order 66, the orders are just orders and they're trained to follow with all the potential of real dilemmas. So, what do you think?
I understand why they changed it, because it's hard to accept that like the same clones who like we grew attached to in the show are also willing to gun down the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I think I prefer the non-chips. I mean, one thing I don't like actually about the show is how they're handling Order 66. Like, I don't like the idea that every clone had to get a direct order. Like, you think that would just go out on like the 5G across the galaxy. Like, I was expecting Cut to maybe have gotten it.
Yeah,
and
me
it's kind
too.
of weird that he didn't, just because he had his cell phone on vibrate or was in a movie at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm not sure if like Cut has had his chip removed or what, but I've always preferred the non-chipped version of it, because like part of Star Wars is the fact that like how little it actually takes to make people do horrible shit, and to kind of take away the agency of those people through the chips. I don't know. I think it does reduce them too much to automatons and kind of undermine some of the points that Star Wars usually tries to make.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's like it can help their overall story, but I mean, we got to see how the clones end up, I guess, too, because it does make it a bit more tragic, I guess, in a way. And it does make the Republic look even more evil, because I guess that's arguable, but I don't know. I'm surprised that George Lucas, who like has so much to say about war, and like, and kind of nationalism and imperialism, would go with the chip route, because I think a much more apt metaphor would be, the soldiers following orders because they've been indoctrinated to do so.
Yeah,
especially with like the whole Vietnam angle, he usually
that appeals a lot more to me, and I think that goes better with like just how easy it is for them to slide into fascism, just because that's what's happening.
Yep, exactly.
Rather than like try to say, oh, actually no, it's just because they have chips, so they have to listen.
Exactly.
Because like with Crosshair, it's kind of weird because there does seem to be a mix of like, yeah, it's the chip, but also he's just kind of a dick, and like pick a lane.
He is a dick.
Like I feel it would really undermine the conflict that they're setting up with Crosshair if the resolution is just they need to get the chip out, rather than some sort of reconciliation in their actual positions, or realizing that like, no, actually he does just fundamentally support that, and it's possible that we won't be able to come to any sort of like reconciliation.
That would be good. I would like that if they take the chip out and then it's like, nah, dog, like I'm still gonna kill that girl.
Yeah, like I would like that as well. I wouldn't like it if he actually succeeded in killing it, but if they allow it to be his actual opinion and his
No.
actual viewpoint more than just like, oh, he was
He takes
forced
the
to
chip
do it.
out and he's like, nah, fuck those kids still.
They've actually called off the order to do this. This is all a me thing now.
Oh man. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think we're both kind of on the same page there.
Do you want to read the next one?
Sure. Actually, can you read the next one? I'll read the one after that.
Sure. Our next question comes from Matrix, who says, I want to know what you think about how the Bad Batch is kind of filling in for Clone Wars Season 8, and if we'll see more Rebel series content be introduced to help lead up to the series. I know we saw Kanan in the first episode, but I want to know if there's any potential of seeing more content like this that will lead up to Rebels.
That's the last question too, isn't it? I said I'd read the next one. I think that's the last one.
There's one after that from Hans.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I assume some of the Rex stuff will kind of lead into. And we might. I wouldn't be surprised if we got Ahsoka. That would kind of lead indirectly into Rebels. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a bit of if they visit that. I don't know. How long have they been on that walker in Rebels? I don't know. Rex and the other clones, remember?
Yeah, I'm not sure because I feel like it can't be like since the Clone Wars. It's like 20 years that walkers. They had to be doing other
Did
stuff
be
for a
looking
while.
kind of bad though. Yeah.
Yeah, they get some supplies, but I hope they haven't just been doing that for 20 years. It'd be boring.
20. It's like by the time you got, probably a year, get out there. I think they find them in Rebels in like one BBY, so it's like 16.
Yeah. Do you think we're gonna get like part of Rex's plot for the show is getting him dropped off there? And we'll have a solid answer. Then maybe Ahsoka shows up for that. I don't feel like we'll get
or
too
maybe
much.
we see like Gregor or something.
Yeah.
Because they're not together yet. We don't know. Last time we saw Rex and Ahsoka, they were together, so we don't know like why they split up. Like, my question is Darth Maul going to be in the show?
I really hope we don't get too much other Rebel stuff. Like we got the Saw cameo, we got the Kanan cameo, which like I guess if they don't do anything else with Kanan, then it's more of a why did you bother changing the backstory? But I really do think like Filoni just wanted to connect Rebels more with it, which even then it's weird because most of the clones that Kanan was with when Order 66 happened were actually trying to help him. But and that's part of why I feel like they probably don't have them run into Kanan again, because then like they'd probably clear up any misunderstandings.
Yeah.
And maybe 20 years earlier he would have got rid of that kind of hang up.
Yeah, I forgot how much he hated clones and Rebels. Yeah.
So I feel like the Rebel stuff is going to be more post Endor with the live action shows and like Ahsoka, Rangers and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Let me read the last question we got here. Thank you very much for that one, Matrix. Go to the inbox. So we had Han says, how do you guys compare the Bad Batch to Delta Squad from Republic Commando? He thinks that the Bad Batch was done better in both character development and design of the characters. We're gonna piss some people off. I know I haven't read the old Republic Commando books for a while. I can't remember. Is Delta Squad in the Republic Commando books?
I think they're like tangentially in them. They might be more in Imperial Commando. I've never read Imperial Commando actually. But
that's the one that's got the cool Battle of Coruscant scenes in it. I remember. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I never liked. I never got too attached to the characters from Republic Commando. So
like Fixer and Scorch are funny, but like Sev is just Crosshair. there's not much characterization in either group quite yet. I feel like of all of them, it's really just Hunter and Echo that are really characters beyond tropes with one-liners. And that's something the show is going to have a lot of work to do. With Republic Commando, it wasn't really necessary that they be much more than that because
4-hour
it's
game.
it's like a 4-hour FPS, and you spend a good amount of time in that game separated from each other, which kind of interesting choice for a squad game. But yeah, so I don't think that Republic Commando is really more developed than Bad Batch. I think there's more of an onus on Bad Batch to get developed more because they are in a TV show and not a video game. So hopefully that gets better.
And we'll have a lot more time with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly usually just too busy when we're playing Republic Commando being pissed off at the games to really remember anything. How much I like the characters.
Goddamn battle droid, so strong. Who made these things?
The Clone Wars were largely won by running up and punching because that's the best strategy for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say, or should we call her a wrap for tonight?
Yeah, I think that's it.
So I got my copy of Heart of the Jedi here. Yeah, and I had to it's now extra exclusive because I had to write in it because during the tournament I was supposed to go on and end it and my mic wasn't working. So I just wrote my final message was just thank you. So very exclusive now.
Yeah, I haven't ordered it. I don't know if I'm going to be on time for it.
It's gone now.
It's gone. Okay. Well,
you can still read it online though. Yeah.
Yeah, like I do most reading in it would have been cool to have the paper copy, but
I'm thinking about doing an audiobook for it because I've been kind of wanting to. I think I'm just going to read the whole book out and just make it available for free.
Nice.
People might enjoy that. I don't know.
An EckhartsLadder audiobook on Audible.
It's going to take me a long time because it's 400 pages, so it's pretty long. 450, pretty long book.
What's the font size in there?
I don't know if that's like a 9, maybe. It's pretty.
Well,
small.
I don't care about the actual number, just like relative to others.
It's
yeah,
like
that's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty thick, bitch.
Yeah.
To be fair. So yeah, I might try to do that. It'll probably take me like a few months to do, but if I read like a chapter a day, I don't know. If there's anybody who wants to help me out with that, who's got any audio engineering skills, let me know, and maybe we can do that as a project together. But yeah.
All right, we are going to go play some Star Wars video games with the Stellaris mod Fallen Republic. So that's going to be fun. We'll be back on Thursday with more Tapcaf transmissions talking about Young Jedi Knights, Shards of Alderaan. And Eck may have forgotten a lot of the book by then because he has already read it. I haven't read it yet.
I'm going to reread it.
I haven't read it in the last 10 years yet. But.
Yeah. Star Wars Timeline just donated and says I'm doing it free. Star Wars Timeline is the Star Wars timeline. Like have you ever visited that site? That's where like the Star Wars Timeline showed all the work you did. He says, Corey, I'm doing a free giveaway of Heart of the Jedi plus interviewing the author for tomorrow. Very cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, so check that out. I did see your giveaway, a pile of books. And yeah, if you want to read it, it is available. It's been available for free for 5 years. So.
Yeah. Well, I've still got to read Destiny's Way, Unifying Force, and Final Prophecy, all that. So I'm so close to being done with my NJO reread after I really slowed down for a while. So that's I can't distract myself with more to read yet.
I'm on another Halo book now. I just finished Contact Harvest, which is about it's about the first contact between the Covenant and humans. And there's a sex scene in it where Sergeant Johnson ejaculates early.
Huh.
Yeah. That goes into detail. So, if anyone's interested in that, you can check that out.
So which episode is this? Sorry, I hate to do this again, but we're possibly in a good situation here to have episode 66 be Revenge of the
take a
Sith
look.
again. Because we did.
I'm
we
just
did
gonna go
skip
by
an
numbered
episode now.
episodes because
Yeah. Well,
We've
just
had-
check the Podbean episode number. Because I think we're leaving out the 2 episodes that were like the Halo game and that were kind of extra.
we're number 61.
The one we're doing
based on
right
our
now
numbering.
is 61.
No, the one we're doing now is 62. Sorry,
Okay. So
based on our numbering.
it'd be 63 on Thursday, 64. Oh crap! Never mind. Doesn't work. We screwed it up, but we didn't
So
screw
what's
it
our
up.
schedule now?
I figure if we're gonna be doing the book episodes on Thursday and then Bad Batch episodes on their own on Tuesday, probably much shorter episodes for that, or like earlier in the week, not necessarily Tuesday, but probably pretty quick episodes generally.
Yeah, half
That
an
means
hour
they're
maybe.
twice as more.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the option of putting it all together, but I feel like that there's probably some people who just want to listen to Bad Batch stuff and.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, there it is. Thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate you all. We'll get to Waru soon, and we'll get to Jedi Prince, Ken soon.
We'll probably end up doing Crystal Star. I mean, at this point, should we just say next week? Because we're not going to be able to line up episode 60 or 66 with episode 3. We've been edging people on the Crystal Star for so long. Next Thursday, it's 1 book.
All right.
We're doing it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Waru.
Right. There it is. So, Shards of Alderaan. Next week, there's going to be a Bad Batch episode. Maybe Tuesday, maybe not. Whenever we're able to do it. Then next Thursday, mark it on your calendars. We're giving Waru a visit.
All right.
Good night.
Let's end the podcast there. It's all downhill from here.